if you would, about your background and what brought you to your current position.
Oh, wow. Uh, well, I think I can start out by talking about an inspiration for my life, which was my late father. My late father was the co-founder, along with my uncle, of the Sheraton hotel chain, and this is back in the 1930s. And I was always impressed as a kid. I used to ask him, "How did you do it?" I mean, because that's pretty successful if you have 400 hotels that you own. And his answer was usually some version of, "Wasn't me, it was the people I work with." And that brought up the
Hmm.
question, well, what did you do that made them go the extra mile and stay with you for life? And
Or how did you find those right people and put them in the right seats on your bus? But tell me more.
okay, my impression is that he could do it with anybody because I saw it replicated with my late husband, Frank Perdue. Both men felt that their entire success could be laid at the feet of the people who worked with them. But,
Wow.
if, both men at the end of their lives employed 20,000 people, and you can't, I don't think it's possible to pick 20,000 people. I think what it takes is to be a coach for 20,000. And Father used to say that a leader's job is to give people a better vision of themselves. And he did that in a dozen ways, but can I share one that really impressed me? Is
Please, please
Thank you.
do.
Uh, Father told me, now he began in the 1930s, pretty much at the height of the Great Depression. And generally, the hotels that he would acquire were ones that were either in bankruptcy or maybe on the edge of bankruptcy. And when he'd take over a hotel, and it could be a large one, it could be one that employed 800 people. And if he didn't buy it, the thing was just going to close its doors. Well, when he'd take over, the day he took possession, he told me, he would invite all the employees, and for the moment, let's assume it's 800. They're
Hmm.
in the ballroom of the hotel, and he's addressing them for the first time. Well, Father told me that he knew that the 800 people in the audience, that everyone was demoralized. Everyone is thinking, am I going to keep my job, or am I going to go out in the bread line? What am I going to tell my spouse? There. And he said that he knew that they could hardly listen to a word that he was going to say because they were so worried about their own lives. So giving a great vision of what the hotel could be just wasn't going to fly. So instead, as he told me, the first words out of his mouth, every time he took over a hotel, the first words out of his mouth to his new employees were, "I want you to keep your job. I want you to keep your job because I know that you know your job better than anybody else on the planet. And my job is to give you the resources and the encouragement to show the world just how good you are." Is that not cool?
Wow, what a profound leader.
But that's just the beginning, because he'd talk about how they would see in a few months, the hotel's teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. You're going to see that it's financially successful and that your jobs are secure, and in fact, we're going to be an example to the rest of the city, because this is a time of pain, of worry. Unemployment was 25% at that period. uh, this hotel is going to be so successful, so well served, with such esprit, that it's going to be an example to the rest of the city that things can turn around. And so suddenly, his saying, a leader's job is to give people a better vision of themselves. But that wasn't the end of it, because he said, as he told me, the first day, the words are important, they really are, but they're not as important as actions.
Hmm.
He said the next day, those employees would get to see a whole cavalcade of workmen coming into the hotel to spruce it up, to renovate it, like decorators, plumbers. And he told me that the first money that he ever spent on any hotel wasn't in the areas that the paying public would see. No, they were where the employees worked, like the employee dining room, the employees' showers, lockers. Uh, and so I, as a young girl, maybe 12 or whatever, I'd ask him, why did you put the first money into sprucing up the areas that the paying public would never see? And he said, it was to signal to the employees how important they were. And what's the best way of communicating to them how important they are?
Then
It's
investing in them. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, so I asked him, uh, okay, I can see investing in the employees, but why did you right at the beginning sort of take away a bargaining tool, which is why did you just say they were going to keep their jobs? And he said, in his world, there were three ways of influencing people. And we as speakers really care about influencing, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I take what I'm about to say as pretty much gospel, mostly because my father did it and it worked. He
Okay.
said, of the three ways of influencing that were in his world, he said the first is intimidation. He could have stood up there in front of his employees and told them, shape up or you're fired. And he said, you can get people to do what you want. Intimidation works, but they do it grudgingly. They do the least.
And they do it while they're looking for their next out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, during the Depression, they probably didn't have a
Have an
next.
out. Yep.
But still, to have a worker do everything grudgingly, it in his world, that was just a terrible approach. He said, option number two, bribery. He could have stood up in front of them and told them, you, if you do a great job, there's a raise in it for you, there's a bonus in it for you. He said the problem with bribery is people work for the bribe and people don't stay bribed. It's just, again, it works, but it's just not, in his world, a very effective way. So I said, what's the third?
Yeah. I'm ready to ask you, what's the third? That temporary incentive is not exciting to me. What's the third?
I won't tell you. Yes, I will.
No, everyone wants to know. What's the third?
This is called the dramatic pause. The third is influence, inspiration.
Okay.
And this gets right back to his saying that a leader's job is to give people a better vision of themselves. That first day when he was standing up there in front of his new employees, he was putting in their minds that, first of all, he believed in them, and second, that they were going to change, that they were going to be an example to the rest of the city. But third, if you're a maid, you're not just making beds. You're a bellboy, you're not just carrying bags. No, you're part of a team that together is going to do something amazing. And so, again, you're not just a maid making beds, you're part of a team that's doing something amazing. So, inspiration, in his view, was the best technique for a leader.